This is our town.
Welcome.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 202 of Value Town. I'm ChanmanV, and Raven's joining me today. What's up, Raven?
Hey, I'm good. Home from playoffs now, so I get to relax for a few weeks before champs. So I'm doing all right.
Yeah, so nothing in between. So no other events or anything between now and.
Not for me. I generally try and leave gaps between certain things like playoffs into champs because one, I want to play Hearthstone lead into champs, of course, in case meta changes and such. Yep. But also, it was maybe last year or the year before, I did so much traveling in one single year that it nearly broke me. So I try and leave just little chunks of being at home. And plus, I've got like a puppy and stuff now, so just on demand. Yeah. So I like hanging out.
You can't leave the puppy at at your friend's place for weeks and weeks or months at a time, right?
Well, she stays here with my girlfriend, but it's just that I also like to be with the dog. So, but yeah, I try and leave some gaps. But yeah, a few weeks and I'll be back at champs.
Yeah, I remember that year, man. You guys were crazy hustling that year, and those days are probably over. I think for all of you guys,
at least for now. But there was times, especially like Sol and I, because we travel a lot to America, of course. Yep. But there are times when I think for most of the year, that 1 year, I was never home for more than like 2 weeks at a time.
Wow,
it was just. A lot of times I wouldn't be home for over a month. You know what I mean? I would just travel.
Literally living in a suitcase, right? That's crazy.
Yeah.
But today, guys, we got lots to talk about. It's a good week to have Raven on because we always have very, very great discussions when Raven's here. And of course, we're going to start off with our week in Hearthstone. Particularly wanted to talk about odd mage, given that we're seeing a lot more of it, especially at the top of ladder, people at the very, very top of ladder, and we're seeing it even at events. And we haven't gotten a chance to even cover it all on the show yet. So figured we'd do that. Twitch Rivals, of course, yesterday, the arena tournament or the arena event that happened yesterday was very fun and exciting. So we'll chat about that. HCT APAC, of course, Raven was there casting that, or he was casting it from the studios, not actually there since everybody was spread out everywhere. And then discussion about just Hearthstone streaming, in terms of the impact Auto Chess has had recently. And what's been happening there with streaming. And then Q&A at the end, of course, as always, ask your questions. We got maybe one or two already via email and Twitter, but if you're in chat, obviously you can ask it in Twitch chat. If not, you can always email it to valuetowngg at ChanmanV.tv, or you can just tweet it at valuetowngg, and we'll get it as well. Okay, our week in Hearthstone. So yeah, Raven, do anything cool? Play any at all since you've been back? And notice anything cool?
I've not played tons since I got back, but I streamed a bit today of some Hearthstone. But I got a little bit upset because basically almost this time last week I was like 120.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'll just get top 100. That'll be nice. Done. And then I slipped a little. I just had like a rough set of games where I just slipped a little bit down. Yeah. And then I started doing what I always do and edge towards should I just try and play this random deck and see if it's any good? And I go, it's not good. I lost. Yep. Should I try to play this random deck and see if it's any good? And then I slowly went backwards from 120. I think I'm 2.5K now, which sucked. Although it was funny. I played against Fino, and after the game, I went into his stream. And he was like, yeah, it was weird. I queued into you and didn't know if it was you or not because it was so high on ladder. I was like, thanks.
Nice.
I appreciate that. Casters can play too.
Dude, you guys get no respect. I swear. Cora and you and just everybody. People think you guys suck, or in reality, you guys can't.
I don't know if you'll see actually, but there's been that the StarCraft caster tournament that's been on recently. I don't know if you've seen any of that.
I don't know if I've seen the caster one, but
no,
I haven't seen.
So it's a full tournament bracket of just casters, right?
Really?
StarCraft. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
Cool.
I was like, just wait, we need to get Hearthstone one on the go because that would be kind of fun. Just to see what would happen.
Be totally fun. I mean, totally doable.
It's not hard.
You guys are like, especially when you guys are all in the same place too.
Right.
It could definitely happen. But okay, that's definitely great. But I've been playing some. So last week I played Mally Rogue a bunch, and the week before I played a bunch of Peanut Shaman. What's wrong with Mally Rogue?
I hate Mally Rogue.
Oh, come on!
Did you draw the correct cards in the first 7 turns?
Dude,
yes. Okay, you win.
Amazing. That's totally amazing when that
It's
happens.
silly.
But this week I decided to play some Odd Mage, and Odd Mage, I feel like it's just been picking up steam. It's been like a few weeks now that Odd Mage, I think it's been starting to really take its role in the meta.
Which style were you playing?
The one with secrets.
So the aggro,
yeah, the more aggro
variant.
One. Yeah,
okay,
yeah. There's the other one too. Yeah, you're right. There's like 2 different variations of them. But let me show it real quick. I just showed an HS replay here. But played the aggro one just because I don't know. I think it's a little bit easier to play too. So having not played it at all, I think that was pretty nice. But it's good. It's like really, really good right now in terms of I don't know, just those turn 3 plays, I feel like, and somehow it just, you're able just to skip over turn 4, and you always seem to have Fungal Mancer hits, like on turn 5. So
right.
I think just that beginning of the game, I feel like I'm always dictating tempo, and then towards the end you get to play with Geneli, which is always a lot of fun. I don't run the I don't get a chance to run 2 of them, unfortunately, but
right.
there's versions that obviously with Zola that you can run 2 of them, which is always a lot of fun. But have you played this deck at all, Raven?
So honestly, since the expansion came out, Odd Mage has been on the list of archetypes I want to practice. I want to play and see what's going on. But because no one, up until maybe even recently, this playoff, even I felt got close to like a decent actual deck.
Yeah.
And I suck at deck building, everything outside of maybe Hunter. But I just didn't get around to it because I always have this issue, and I even had it on stream today, whereas I ran into an odd control mage, and I was like, what does this do better than control mage? Right? And then I see this deck, and I'm like, what does this do better than Hunter? So right. I feel like Mage, maybe just as a class right now, is very much, it's not quite the best at anything, and therefore, why would you play it when there's so many other decks? But I do love the idea of Odd Mage. I think like the hero power is powerful, especially when you look at stuff like Jan'alai, and I think Daring Fire is very, very, very strong. But it's a deck I want to play just to have fun with more than anything else, I think. So I'll probably give it a whirl before the season ends.
Yeah, I've seen people get super. I mean, I've definitely seen a few streams where they've even gotten top 10 legend. Yeah. And here's another version too, by the way. I mean, there's all kinds of different variants. This one's definitely more the control area.
Yeah, that's the control one.
Yeah, and this one this is the ones that I feel like the top legend players play more. And it's really interesting. It's got Astromancer, it's got the Alexstrasza Frost Lich at the end, where the aggro one doesn't have that. That's also got greedier cards like Stonehill Defender. Some of them have Zola too, but this one doesn't particularly have Zola. But
I guess the ooze spot would be Zola.
Yeah,
in general, like you could switch those 2 out.
Yeah. So it's really powerful too. I don't know. It's one of those things where until you play it, you don't really understand why it's good.
Right.
But things like Pyromaniac's pretty good. Black Cat. I mean, Black Cat when you get like a Cinder Storm or something like that with it, it's always really, really nice. And I don't know, there's a lot of really interesting things. The Daring Fire Eater, yeah. So this was an okay card. I don't know how I feel about this card actually. But
I like it a lot.
Yeah, you like it?
2 mana, deal 4.
Yeah. It's nice. It's definitely nice. Maybe I'm using it wrong. I'm not going face too much enough.
Yeah, I think the thing with this deck is it surprises me because this is the one I played against today.
Yeah.
And I was Odd Rogue, so it was kind of just unfavored as it was because this deck just beats Odd Rogue most of the time. But it was very much like Dragon's Fury into Tyrant, and I was like, okay, they've cleared my board and played a 4/4. I might be able to beat this. It's still Odd Rogue, right? There's a lot of damage. And then they just dropped Astromancer afterwards, and I was like, oh,
that's it.
now I'm just behind. I can't even beat him on board anymore.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, later there was like a Flame Strike, and I was like, wow, like, is this how the deck just keeps working? They just kill stuff until they don't, and then play something, and then keep killing stuff after they've played something. And that sounds like a really terrible explanation for someone whose job it is to explain the game. But do you know what I mean? Like, this Astromancer, I feel, is almost the key card That along with Janelai, I guess, to like, well, here's what will kill you eventually, but I just stick this, and then you never get to stick anything else in the game.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just a weird deck to watch, because you look at the list and you're like, this is just worse than Control Mage, right? And it actually just maybe isn't. You know,
I don't think it is.
Maybe it's better.
I think you're right about Astroman. It feels like Spiteful Summoner, you know, like in those
right,
past
exactly.
decks. Just like when you put it down, this deck, because it's odd only, you know, is typically a deck where you're holding 5 or 6 cards. A lot of times, so you're going to end up getting something pretty solid alongside of it. And like you were saying before, Dragon's very into Arcane Tyrant. I mean, they're so great. I mean, we've seen it a lot in Druid, and you know, seeing it in Mage and having it basically give you time to really establish those plays that you were talking about, and then you know, just kind of being able to carry it all the way out to Frostless Jaina is the key to winning it with this kind of control deck. But yeah, it's built so interesting. It's definitely something I think everybody should try out right now, because it's I don't know, you just kind of, you can feel the diversity of the Mage class. You know, the Mage class is headed in this direction. You know, like it's pretty different than it has been in the past, or at least I guess it's not that much different than maybe Control Mage, you know, if you've been playing that style the whole time. But, you know, it's definitely taking a different type of identity.
Yeah, it definitely feels more proactive, right? Because one, you can just ping someone to death. Like, you know, it's still hunter hero power, right? Like, instead of killing minions, you can just kill their face, right? You know, that's nice. You still have the spot removal in Voodoo Doll, because obviously it doesn't run polymorph, which is actually a good thing, because of Dragon's Fury minimum hits 5 every single time. But like I said, the way I've seen it played against me is the Mage sticks something, and then never lets you stick anything. And then that one thing, like the single Astromancer plus minion, just kills you eventually along with the pings. And already, like the Fire Eaters, that's 8 damage for 2 1-mana cards in hero power. 8 is a lot. That's nearly a third of your opponent's health in most games, right? Like, that's just a lot of damage. Forget about everything else.
It's
definitely great. It's a solid deck.
Yeah, so you can play either variant. This variant is obviously, you know, going to be longer games. You know, you don't win games quickly with this deck, but you do win games quickly with this deck. So if you want to play a faster one, you can play this one. I mean, it's got Nightblades and everything in it. It's all out, man.
I think as well, the deck looks relatively cheap, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I guess there's a few legendaries, Luna, Janelai, but outside of that, the deck's like, just doesn't look that bad.
I don't think it's that cheap, actually. It's like Luna, Leroy, Janelai, and Baku. That's a good amount, actually.
I guess I'm always under the presumption that most people have Leroy, most people have Baku by now, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, barring those, I mean, the rest of them are common, and
that's what I mean.
Like common, basic, and and
it doesn't look too bad. Yeah. And some of them are just old cards, like Kirin Tor Mage. You must have opened 2 Kirin Tor Mage by now. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
true. Yeah,
kind of thing. But.
For sure. But yeah, definitely fun deck. Yeah, play it, guys. We'll do deck of the week for this one. Speaking of deck of the week, we did Malagos Rogue last week, and deck of the week, guys, for you wondering, it's just it's like this patron only thing that we do these days. Everybody can play it, but you know, we definitely try to track all the patrons win rates, and you know, they email them in, and we kind of take a look at it. So last week we did Peanut Shaman, which was, we could not get to 50% with Peanut Shaman, but Malagos Rogue this week they went 25 and 20, so that's definitely better. Got a winning record with Malagos Rogue, so good job, guys. Definitely a good job on that one. So we'll do this Odd Mage this time. You can choose either one, either Odd Mage. Let us know if you're a patron, like which you know, what your record ended up being, and maybe some cool plays that you discovered playing that deck. Okay, well, I mean, that's pretty much all I did with Hearthstone this week. You know, outside of watching, I definitely felt like I was watching a bunch of things, whether it was HCT APAC or it was Twitch Rivals. But before we get into those, a little bit of news. So there was an interview with Ixar that happened maybe a couple days ago with I think Cam Shea from IGN. Yeah,
not PC Gamer, IGN. Yeah. That's what's good. I've had interviewed that guy before, and I was like, I just naturally go to PC Gamer.
It's one or the other. It's one of those big publications. But a couple things came out of this that was I thought worth mentioning or discussing. And they talked a little bit about the early nerfs. Like the reason for the timing is they just felt like it was, you know, they didn't need to see data. They just knew these nerfs would make huge impacts. Of course they did. I mean, there's like the Druid ones, and those are definitely huge nerfs. That felt like they were in the queue for a long time, to be honest. So, you know, I don't think they needed. You kind of confirmed that they didn't really need any stats from the existing expansion to really make a move on that. Sounds like Hunter's Power, like, or at least Hunter the class, is something that's on their watch list right now. Surprise, surprise. That class has obviously been doing well for a while now. And then he went on to talk about expansions. So like just general expansions for, you know, the Year of the Raven. And one thing that stuck out to me was that he said that there really wasn't any, you know, particular effort or focus to make the expansions for this Year of the Raven less powerful than the previous year, where we had Ngoro, you know, Knights of the Frozen Throne, and Kobolds and Catacombs. You know, like probably our strongest year we've ever had. Like literally, I think the 3 expansions.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, like I think those are probably the strongest we've ever had. And
so this rotation is going to be lit because all your good cards are going away.
I know, like... exactly. So I like have been giving them, you know, kudos for basically taking this year, almost like sacrificing this year in terms of power level, in hopes of come reset this April or March, you know, having this new Hearthstone, you know, this like way lower power level type of Hearthstone. But it sounds like they weren't even trying to do that, which begs the question then, were all 3 of these expansions successful? Because I
think that isn't a completely true statement. That second one there, because for example, they did not release a new set of Death Knights. You know, all hero cards, right? They went from a hero card for everyone to one singular hero card per class per expansion at a much lower power level.
Yeah.
Although we can talk about Zul'jin later, maybe. But you know, the power of the Death Knight specifically was obscene. Well, is obscene. Yep. It's just the game changes from rotation because of Death Knights. Games end.
Yeah.
Once the Death Knights are gone, right?
New win conditions. Yeah, totally.
Right. And then I don't know, like Death Knights are the real big one, but when I was looking at some cards that are going away, all of the Spellstones are going to be gone. Yeah. Like that is insane. They've not released anything nearly as powerful as Spellstones. So I don't know how true that statement is. I'm going to pretend they're lying to us.
Just go through Ngoro, okay? Yeah. Like those are just individual cards that are ridiculous, not to mention the quests. You know, I'm not even talking about like something like that. So yeah, Kobolds and Catacombs, that introduced well, not an did it? Wait,
Q-Block.
Yeah, introduced Q-Block. Right? Like, that's what I was about to say. I was just like double checking myself before I said.
Well, that was the legendary weapons.
Yeah,
which,
right.
Do you remember Aggro Mage Aluneth?
Yeah.
You know, back when Mana Worm wasn't rep, and so you know the legendary weapons have been a pretty big deal too. So
yeah,
I just don't believe them.
Yeah, I don't.
It's my answer. I just don't believe them. Like
you don't believe them. Okay, all right. Well, if they did, then I maybe they get lucky that on the reset. I mean, I think there will still be a couple cards, Baku and Gen specifically, I think will be still incredibly strong.
They worry me to a large extent.
I still think the fact that they exist might negate the fact that everything else will be at lower power levels. But yeah, so you know, can't really give them credit for that anymore, given that they admitted to, like, or at least Dean said that they didn't really purposely do this.
I will give them credit for the way they've approached hero cards, though.
Yeah,
because I think as the separate hero cards, so Hagatha, Dr. Boom, and now Zul'jin, I think they're a much more reasonable, still feels good to play, but aren't stupid power level, you know, of like the Death Knights out of Frozen Throne. So I think they've pulled that back in the right direction, and they've been, I would say, successful as each one has seen good play.
Yeah, Dr. Boom still is, but Dr. Boom has a lot to do with just the Baku element of it, right? So I think that's the only debatable one. I think a lot of people think that Hagatha is going to be broken later, though. Like Hagatha really is super strong. It's just nobody's.
I mean, I think Zul'jin's. I was talking to Derek about this today or yesterday now, and I think Zul'jin's actually way more broken than people think. And people are going to find out how broken it is very soon because Rexar won't be there. But I feel like too many people are way focused on like, if I have Rexar equipped and I draw Zul'jin, you can't play Zul'jin because you need the Rexar hero power. It's like, Zul'jin means you only need one more turn to win the game, because that turn should be extremely powerful.
I mean, that turn fills the board, right? It fills the board,
right.
like loads you up with secrets. And yeah, you're right. If you don't have an answer to that, then you're in trouble. But
you just want
people, but you know, whenever Rexar does disappear, people will save like all of the removal for that play. You know, so
right.
that's why I don't think Zul'jin's too bad. You know, it's definitely
I don't think it's like change this card. You know, I just think it's very, very powerful. I think because Rexar exists, no one's giving Zul'jin enough credit, because Rexar just is visually more powerful in terms of it can just put Rexar in an aggro deck. Yeah, because that one card beats control decks for some weird reason. But yeah, I think Zul'jin's gonna get. People are going to get upset with Zul'jin going forward after the rotation.
I think Hunter will be fine on rotation. I've been saying that the whole time. You know, I think Hunter is completely ready for the reset, where some classes are not. And you know, they're going to require some new cards from the expansions early on. So another thing that was mentioned in this also was that you know, I guess the focus for them in the expansion was really just introducing new archetypes, which they achieved it. You know, there's all kinds of, you know, different types of decks that we've seen during, like anywhere from, you know, Mecha'thun type of win conditions to Taunt Druid to, I mean, all kinds of things, right? And I think because of that, we've seen this diversity in tier 1 and tier 2. You know, like 30 different types of decks, or 25. Right. It's not so much now, but it was at one point 25 to 30. So,
yeah, and as a caster, it's our job to know every playable archetype, right? Because it's unless it's truly crazy, it is embarrassing to sit on a desk, someone brings a deck and you don't know what it does, right? That's not good enough for a caster, at least. But I'll say, like, we said it the last few weeks, is this meta is probably the most wide meta in terms of playable archetypes that we've ever had. I mean, look at Paladin as one class has an obscene amount of just completely fine tournament decks. Exactly. Like that's a lot of decks, and even within those decks there are tons of different builds too. So you know, it's crazy. It's kind of nutty, and that's just, I think there's only really
only
Warrior that's
Warriors need some help.
Warriors struggle, but that's purely down to Baku being too strong for that class. It's so difficult to not just go hero power. Hero power.
No,
hero power.
I don't think it's just that, though, because I've tried all kinds of mid-range tempo decks, and they're okay, but you know, it kind of brings me back to what you were saying earlier, where it's like, well, if I'm going to play this type of deck, I might as well just play another class, because they're way better at it than that. So Warrior definitely needs some more powerful things, especially in the beginning of the game, and you know, and not only just tempt them away from the Baku thing, but you know, Dragon Warrior, like, where's that? Nobody's playing Dragon Warrior at all, because it's not that great right now. So hopefully they'll add some more dragons in this upcoming expansion, and we can kind of get to that. But you're right, the rest of the classes, man, there's at least two types of archetypes
minimum, and at least. And even then, look at Priest has about 8,000. Hunter's running a few.
I mean, how many are there? Control, Clone, Topsy. That's about it, right?
And then Divine Spirit Inner Fire is still played.
Is it? I don't see it that often.
Multiple ones at playoffs.
Oh,
that means they are decks.
Okay, all right,
that's what I'm judging it by. Like decks that a good player would consider bringing to a tournament, right? It's just, I think, a reasonable way to put it. But yeah, I don't know. I think the game right now, I would guess actually that Shaman, especially after the Shudderwock nerf, or the Saronite nerf, I guess is the way to put it, is probably the other class that needs just a kick, just one tiny kick to just get interesting. Because the problem with Shaman is, even Shaman for me is not an interesting deck. So
yeah, it's
now,
not. But
now they have nothing.
You know, I mean, it's kind of funny sounding, but after playing Peanut Shaman, I mean, I feel like Peanut Shaman is the perfect example of like throwing every single utility that Shaman possibly has into one deck. And I mean, playing it and starting to understand some of the key plays and things like that, you start to realize that Shaman does have a lot of, you know, utility in the class right now. It's just they just need some kind of synergy. They need some type of theme, right, to be able to.
They need a game ender, right? I feel like that's what they're missing, because like you can survive, you can heal a bit, you can put stuff on the board, you can't actually ever kill anyone. A lot of even
Well,
how many
fatigue
games of
is the
even
win
shaman?
condition, right? The fatigue
Right.
is the win condition.
Right. How many games of even shaman have you seen where they have a snowball and just win because that's just how games of Hearthstone go, or they barely make it across the line with like a top deck fire elemental to face for 3 damage for lethal or something.
Yeah.
Like it happens so often, whereas they just don't have anything like how powerful Alakir used to feel.
Yeah.
You know, you played Alakir and you're like, now you're dead with like 1 mana rock biters. Like you're just dead. They don't have like a like finish the game.
Well, to be honest, that's the reason I enjoy watching even Paladin or even Shaman being played like at events is because it isn't so clear and easy to figure out how to win. So the good players, you know, because you barely win when you're playing even Shaman, you usually don't win by a lot. You usually like one misplay costs you the game. So I always learn something watching even Shamans or top even Shaman players play it, like Ike and those guys. So I don't know. It makes it exciting for me. If even Shaman was any better, then I think it would be less.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about just Shaman in general.
Yeah, in general.
Just as a class doesn't really have anything that really punches, whereas a lot of the other classes do.
Yeah, so. Sure. Okay, last thing. Let's see. Okay, so they don't believe that making changes for the sake of changes is something that they want to do. So they always want to make changes to make things better. I don't know if I agree with that, to be honest. Like I think that the root of a lot of issues in Hearthstone has just been everything just going stagnant. And you avoid that if you're constantly changing things. And even if you're constantly changing, even if you change some things for the worse, like as long as you rectify that in your next change, you're okay. But having it constantly move, I don't see anything wrong with that. Actually, I would prefer them just to make changes for the sake of making changes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it also depends what's making things better. Is the game being boring? Bad. Yeah. So then they make it better by doing a change, right? Like,
okay, I guess.
But it's just the way it's worded, right? I guess the answer. But yeah. I don't mind the overall idea, but I do think will give us maybe a sprinkle of new cards mid-expansion, or just change something to change it, right? And if something's not good, either buff it. Even though I don't think they've ever buffed a card, or like strictly buffed a card, I guess. So some cards have been buffed accidentally, or nerf something. But I don't think it's too difficult to like keep it fresh with nerfs or buffs. I think, as long as I think what they're worried about is the game's feeling good, but we said we would change something. Do you know? I think that's what they don't want to put themselves open to or expose themselves to saying, "Oh, we put a patch every month that changes something." Yeah. But if the game's so sick and then they change something, it's like, well, you just messed up with the game and it was really good. I think that's what they're worried about. It's like a caveat more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a totally different way of thinking about things, right? Like having this constant change versus this goal of just having the perfect game, or having the perfect meta. You don't have that whenever you have the frame of mind of just having constant change and people adapting to it. I think it would be, you could make an argument that changing the game a bunch affects the esport element of it, like HCT and the pros, and it's harder to understand that the best player is the person that adapts the best versus just like the person that just plays the best, right? Like plays in a very known meta and just masters it better than the next person. That's
I definitely prefer the adapting.
Yeah.
Personally.
Okay. Cool.
Like,
yeah. Me too. Me too.
Well, there's been we're gonna go a bit sideways for a second, so I apologize.
No,
but then there's a lot of outcry from the Fortnite pro scene. Epic have basically almost openly said, we like fucking with you. Yeah, exactly. It's like, get used to it.
Yeah.
And there's been huge complaints about like, you can't change stuff, right before a tournament. But I'm like, I think that's sick. Just be like, you've rocked up to a tournament, guys. By the way, here's a new gun.
Well,
here's a shiny sword. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean the day before, right? But I think keeping things mixed up, because a lot of pros, and I imagine there's some Hearthstone players that are in a similar boat, would be like, no, let me play on the patch from 6 months ago. Maybe slight exaggeration, but just want to I want to be flawless at this one thing and not change until I beat someone at it. It's like, or just stay fresh. Like, here's some new stuff.
Well, I think there is a case of changing too often, too fast, and I think Fortnite is on that on the verge of doing that, or are doing that. And as a player, as a casual player, I think it's fantastic that to have like new seasons have complete different changes. But I think as a pro player, it is a bit tough to change it. Like, what is it, like once every 6 weeks or something? Once every 8 weeks? It's
I mean,
pretty crazy.
there's been weeks where a new item or weapon has come in every week.
Yeah.
But for a few months,
that's a little bit much. And they've had missteps, but I would look to Epic and really try to learn a few things, because they make some missteps, but they fix it, right? Because the next iteration comes out, and then they can just change whatever they want, so they fix it normally, or take something out. So I would like to see a little bit more of that in Hearthstone. It's a digital game; you can just change things like really quickly if you want. And then there's this last thing. There's this mention of Barnes. Like, they're still talking about Barnes. Like, Barnes is still a problem. Like
Wild players,
yeah,
legitimately upset that Blizzard are not nerfing anything for them or changing anything for them. And Barnes has been talked about as the most broken card that's ever been made. Yeah, and I can see it.
Yep, I can totally.
It's like probably the singular most powerful turn that has an impact on a game is that card, I think.
Yeah. And Wild too. It's too easy to build a deck around abusing Barnes. Yeah. And we've seen it even in standard with Resurrect Priest, right? So it's imagine if you had literally every card in the history of Hearthstone to be able to build upon. That's Barnes is always going. It's just going to keep continuing to get even more broken and more broken. So yeah, they need to change this card.
They could ban it though.
Yeah, they could Hall of Fame this card
because there's a ban option. I did not know this till the other day. What? There's literally art in the collection that says banned on it. Yeah, I only saw this the other day.
Where did you see this? I've never seen
Would you like a wager, Mr. Chanman? I will put on my house.
I believe you. I believe you. But where is this? I've never ever seen this.
It'll run into something we can probably go back to when we talk about Hearthstone streaming, because it's the point I want to raise later. But the Brawl a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks, I was in America, so I remember. I think Europe playoffs weekend. Yeah, was a Brawl where you had to build a deck, but it used no classic or basic cards, and used the Goblins and Gnomes, Boomsday, and I think one or two more expansions. Karazhan and one more. You had 4 expansions, I think, to build a deck from. Right. And it was a mixture of 4. There was some new, some old. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But Whizbang was in the set.
Okay.
And you weren't allowed because Whizbang puts other cards from other expansions, right? Yeah. And in the collection, it literally has banned.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that's literally a thing in the game right now. They can ban cards.
So
I saw it and was like, what? Like they can ban cards? And it's literally a thing that exists in the game.
Okay, there you go. You can ban Barnes, just remove it altogether. But what if all the people that bought so many packs and they got Barnes? They're going to be so mad and angry. It seems to always be the caveat to doing anything like that. Hopefully they'll.
Sorry for making the game better.
I know.
Like,
right. It's like what you did to Warsong Commander wasn't exactly the same, anyways. So,
so you got no dust.
I know. Right? Yeah, it's true. As long as you give everybody dust, everybody be happy. Yep. Okay. Well, anyways, let's move on to some events. We got the Twitch Rivals arena event that happened yesterday, and for those of you that aren't familiar with it, we talked about the last couple weeks, but in case you missed the last couple weeks, Twitch Rival hosted this event where two players, they were invited, I guess teams of 2 were invited to play in this Twitch Rivals, and for the most part, it's supposed to be like, it's very arena centric because you're drafting in the arena, you're playing in the arena, and how it works is just like the total amount of wins, whichever team has the total amount of wins between them. And the wins are taken from 3 consecutive runs. Like whatever your best 3 consecutive runs are, the team with the highest total ends up winning. I think it's $4,000 was the.
I think first place was
first place was $4,000. So it's really interesting. Like leading up, we talked to all the guests that were on here and who their partners were. Like last week we had Collins and Educated Collins and Dreads on, and so they were telling us their teammates, and they did super well, actually, those 2 guys. But it was for the most part a place where the arena players could really flex. show that arena players are amazing, and they're this format is obviously something that Hearthstone should do more things for, and I think that it's cool that Frodan, who works for Twitch, is the man behind obviously all these Hearthstone Twitch Rivals events, seems to always be focused on that, and that's really great because Blizzard hasn't done shit.
I was literally just gonna make sure you shouted out Dan because obviously I've just been with him for 2.5 weeks, more or less, and and I've seen him do this a few times. But the amount of work he puts into events like this, the Dungeon Run Challenge, all the stuff he's done in the past is like Dan actually is just constant. Like just while he's at an event casting, he is also getting stuff like this done. So it's pretty awesome, and he's always trying to think of new and innovative ways to run tournaments, not just it's me versus you, best of 5, 1 bam, let's go.
Exactly.
And stuff like this is really nice especially for arena players and for streamers as well, because everyone was allowed to stream their own games.
Yeah, and I really like that type of concept too. And it's something I actually did a long time ago as well with one of my events back in StarCraft days. But like this whole notion of having one stream and only having it available on stream, not letting anybody else stream, it's not optimal in terms of getting exposure and eyes, and just the community totally bought into an event. So I love the fact that that's what they ended up doing, and they were literally there was a mainstream, and the mainstream is pretty funny too, by the way. We're definitely enjoying the mainstream, but that mainstream was flipping to the different streams, and I have to say they did a great job with the way they designed that. We've seen things like Rat Race and even just like Watchstone, and where there's a lot of different streams going on. You're like basically popping to the different streams to see where this overlying contest is, and it's been not so great. I mean, I'll just be honest, it hasn't been so great in those past events. But this time, like, I felt like it was really good, and there were so many entertaining moments too. I think that TJ and Admirable and Kokora and the main host for Twitch Rivals did a really good job just keeping it light and keeping it still, everybody at least watching still up to date on the points, and just where everybody was.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me because as a caster, I always just instantly look at show presentation and how it's casted, and just the feel of everything to do with production. And it was ran very well. They picked some great casters for it as well, because you just throw TJ and Admirable on the couch and wind them up and watch them go. But this format of tons of views dipping in and out just to see what's going on, and so even if you sit with someone for an hour or a whole match, right, fine. And the whole on the couch, kind of casually just having a laugh, talking about what's on the screen, chatting, whatever, is exactly what I would like to see Swiss go to be honest. If DreamHack ran Swiss and the casters would just sort of relax there, casters would sit down for a few hours. Like say you do a 3-4 hour shift, you just sit down and you just watch. Okay, they've finished playing now. Let's go and see who what these are doing. Yeah. You just jump into another match, like. That's exactly what I would want to see from Swiss, and I think these guys did a really good job. And just the stuff with the arena, there was a lot of exciting points. Because the second someone did 12 or like missed their last game and lost, you'd be like, oh, like because it's your highest amount of runs combined on the 3. There was a lot of hype moments, a lot of funny moments. Some players raging, which was glorious. Like I love people getting angry at the game.
Oh God, Zeddy.
And I think it was complemented very well by the casters. I think they did a good job of when to just step back and just watch their stream, which is effectively what we were doing. Yeah. And then when to just jump in and keep the conversation flowing, keep the tournament flowing. So I think. Not my thing. I only like arena, to be honest. Not my cup of tea. But the stream and the tournament overall was fun and pretty great.
The duration of it, like having it be 1 day, 8 hours, I think was like perfect. Like not having this long drawn out thing, having this real, I don't know, just vibrancy to it. And again, like the entire Hearthstone community was watching it, at the time because of it. And, we got a lot of people away from auto chess to play this thing, which is another big gain. But yeah, like you said, there were so many underlying funny, storylines that were going on. Like in the very beginning, you know, Crip and Ted and Zeddy were destroying it. Like in the very beginning, I think Zeddy got 12 and Crip got something pretty high too.
I think they both won their first one.
Yeah, was
the
it?
first
Yeah,
one? They
so
both went 12 and 12, and we were
exactly.
like
24 and 0, and then they were going to the second one, and then that's when like all hell started breaking loose for.
Dude, I tuned
Zeddy.
in, and Zeddy was 0-2 down, I think, in one of his runs, and it was one of the runs that counted, of course.
Yeah.
And honestly, he swore more. He was like a Brit, man. Like he was going nuts, and he was getting dumpstered by this priest deck that, from my limited arena knowledge, looked insane. And he was like, "How is this person at 0 and 2 or 1 and 2?" Because you know it tries to match up with the same win loss.
Yeah,
this is stupid. Blah, 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 blah. And I was just cracking up. It was just funny.
It was so funny because
I was just a viewer.
They flipped to him. They purposely flipped to his stream, and he was super raging when they flipped him.
It was great.
It was really hilarious. But even before that, I think the first funny storyline was Shady Bunny didn't play a single game because he was trying to draft like a great deck, and he went through 25 drafts before he finally started playing finally started his first game, and then he went 5-3 with it.
Yeah, so funny. And then the idea for that, anyone listen and watch, of course, is that once you start a run, if you play one, you know, once you started one, it takes time because, as you said, it was a limited time event. It was literally a timer. And also, once you finished one run, your next two runs continue. So your first run has to be good, or you need to like quit out and start again.
Yeah, you have control over that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but spending so much time over that is just...
It was crazy. He spent at least
it was funny. It was
30 to 45 minutes just drafting those first ones, and he had.
And he's a good arena streak. You know, he's not a standard player flicking to arena, so it's a lot of indecision about what to do. It's just nope, this sucks.
But dude, he retired some good ones, dude. They flipped to him a couple of times. And it's like, okay, he's like literally down to his last few cards, and then he would retire it. I'm like, dude, he's trying to find like the perfect. He's trying to draft the perfect deck. And so when he finally decided on one, it was just kind of funny. He went 5-3, but obviously recovered decently. Finished 8th here, you know, with Touchy Derp. But that was really funny too. The end though was really exciting. I don't know if you caught it or not, but
unfortunately not. No.
Yeah, but Dreads and Bozar put up a really good score of 54, and then Collins and Faley ended up like they put the mark up there. They basically finished theirs, and they had the 55, and they were winning. And Adwakta and Tex were at 53 or 54, and then Adwakta ended up winning one, getting to 11. But then he got really unlucky. He totally like his draws were terrible in the beginning of that last one, so he couldn't get the 12 to tie. So they're at 54, and then Text ended up with this deck that was super low curve, like all low costing minions. So they were fast games. So he was like at 3 or 4 wins, and they were like down by 1. He ended up getting the tying game started with like maybe like about 8 minutes left or something like that. And his game ended up being like 3 or 4 minutes. He ended up winning it. So he had enough time to get that last game in. And
crazy.
Yeah, and they weren't sure he was going to need another game. So he was playing that game pretty quickly too. And then he ended up playing so fast he got to another game, but he won on that game before the last.
I think the cool thing as well, maybe just finally on this, is that the format was very good because one, people were jumping up and down because the amount of time they had plus their scores, the way the scores worked, and also when you see at the bottom there, the total max can be 72, and no one got close. It's a super cool format because it's like no one just went, oh, bang, bang, bang. I'm maxed. Let's see who else maxes. You know what I mean? It was like very difficult, and I think the format was very well done and kept very interesting. Look how close all those scores are.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I like this. That's like all those scores are like one good, even from top to bottom. They're like one strong run away from going from the top 10th to first, right?
Yeah,
almost.
Why is there 13.3 on there? I'm trying to figure out why that is.
0.3.
Is it because of losses? Is it because of the number of losses they had? Maybe it's like a tiebreaker. I think it was some kind of tiebreaker. Probably.
Or maybe if the timer just ends and they've not finished a run, maybe.
Well, they get to finish the game that they're on. So the game would, you'd either get one win or you wouldn't get a win, right? Yeah. So
No clue.
Yeah,
Pass.
it's probably some kind of tiebreaker, I imagine. But yeah, super close. Congrats to obviously Edwakta and Tex, which a lot of people don't know Tex. So I think this is really great for Tex. People know Edwakta from Lightforge and just his awesome rants that he makes, like always defending. It's great because he's the defender of one of the defenders of the arena community. So, but Tex, a lot of people don't know. So I think this is really, really great for him. And
also, very quick shout out to Fairley, who's just savage this year. Yeah. He's been on one of the most consistent runs in competitive, and he's also just qualified to champs, winter champs, and he also got second place in the arena tournament a couple of days later. Like, super scary guy right now.
Exactly, multi-format talent there.
Yeah, I can barely play one mode, never mind two.
I could play neither at this level, so it's all good. But lots of familiar names on there, definitely good stuff. So anyways, congrats to all the players that ended up on this list, making some money, and good job again, Frodan, for organizing this event. And Twitch Toronto's been doing a lot of cool stuff, guys. I don't know if you guys have been watching just all the. Oh no, I screwed up. Oh god, I keep doing that.
We're back.
But, exactly. But they've been doing some really cool events in all games, not just Hearthstone or Fortnite or whatever. Like they did that yesterday, and then now they're doing like
Rainbow, I think.
Yeah, Rainbow or something like that. So they're going across the board right now for just in terms of doing events. So good stuff. They're always entertaining. So it's good, definitely really good stuff. Okay, so let's talk about HCT APAC, which is an event that you casted, and this is the final one, final region for the playoffs, and then we're going to be moving into winter champs here in a few weeks. But pretty interesting tournament. It's always cool to see the last one because they get a chance to kind of take in the meta that was at the previous events, and then who knows what happens at this last one. I feel like anything goes at this, in particular it being APAC, literally anything goes at this tournament. So what are your thoughts? Like, well, what was the meta like, and what ended up working?
Yeah, so the meta shifted very heavily to a control/combo base when it went to Americas in the second week, and in a response to that, so many players brought aggro to Asia Pacific, and it was generally the right call as long as you had the right decks, the right tech. So yeah, a lot of aggro players did really well. There's some control matchups that did well, but you always run into. I mean, I asked the question last week when I was watching Valley Town of how heavy, because it was very much you're either playing aggro or control/combo. That's it. There's very few players brought a middle ground or a 50-50 lineup. Is your opponent's base was very difficult, right? If you run into someone with a worse lineup than you that your lineup beats, you probably win. It was that sort of weighted either side. So we saw a lot of that. We saw a lot of quick matches as well. You could watch probably the whole VOD of APAC quicker than you could watch the first two rounds of EU. It was kind of insane. I cast a lot of 3-0s, but yeah, the games, I think there was generally a lot of solid play. It wasn't like the disaster of Americas the previous weekend, which we had many laughs backstage on that one.
It was good entertainment though, man.
Oh, I love it. There's two things casters want in Hearthstone tournaments. It's players playing exceptionally well, and then players getting punished when they play exceptionally bad. It's like those are all we want from a Hearthstone cast. Give us one or the other, or preferably both, and we are very happy. But yeah, APAC was really good. It's definitely an emotional one though for a couple of reasons. One, for us casters, it was the last playoffs. There's no more playoffs anymore. Like, we're just done. The competitive format's going to change, and as far as everyone is aware, like TJ said it 1,000 times, there's no playoffs anymore. It's the last playoffs that are ever going to happen, and playoffs is basically me getting into playoffs as a caster was why I could go full time and why I'm casting now. Because without that, maybe I probably wouldn't have earned enough money, to actually do this full time. So really big deal for me. But also we have the Tyler story, which I don't know how those guys conducted that interview, either Tyler or TJ or Dan. I think Dan did a really good job, to be honest. But we were all watching, and we were just sat there like, I don't know what to say. Like, Tyler, if you don't know, has had an extremely rough start to his year and not been playing Hearthstone for the past few months because unfortunately his father passed very recently, like couple of weeks ago, maybe very recently, and his family basically told him that he should go play and go do what he wants, he loves to do, and try and just keep moving basically. And then he just qualified for champs. So it was a crazy weekend, especially for Tyler, and I think everyone's kind of proud of him. One, for just turning up. Never mind qualifying, just turning up was huge. But yeah, he did it, and he'll be a champ. So it's kind of crazy, but it's definitely just an overall emotional weekend. I'm kind of glad the weekend was pretty fast, playstyle wise, compared to the other two, because I don't know if both extremely tired due to time zones and that crazy of a weekend I could have handled it, but we did, and we got there.
No, I definitely hear you in terms of it being crazy emotional. And I picked Tyler, last week, just because I was definitely rooting for him. And I think a lot of people in the community were rooting for him. And
Tyler's just a good guy.
Yeah.
Like, he really is. Like,
no, he is. He's been on the show many, many times. And he's just overall really genuinely great, very nice guy and caring guy. So, if you followed everything that went on with him, with his dad passing away, and just, him very open with his emotions on social media, really sharing, just everything that he was trying to do, in terms of saving his father and everything. It was, it was hard to really watch that as a friend, and not being able to really.
And there's very little you can do, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so having him come here, have success, couldn't happen to a better guy for sure. Right. And he should be taking Casey out to some kind of like great dinner or whatever, because Casey,
you say that
obviously
Casey did build his shaman incorrectly and send him the wrong deck code because he didn't get Hagatha in his even shaman. But he won anyway, so who cares?
That's right. No, but I think was it all four? I think all four players had aggressive lineups. Did Definition have it? I mean, all the other two definitely had aggressive lineups. I forget what Definition had.
He had
Definition
the slow
was
one.
pretty different. The Equestro,
but
that's right.
I think he played it. Yeah, I think he played against someone who had a slow lineup as well in his group. So I think that really helped him, get through. Because we saw for Americas, Killing just couldn't qualify.
He got destroyed.
Out of group. He just couldn't. Because his lineup was so bad versus the other players in the group. Right. He just couldn't qualify. It would have been like 0.1% chance for him to actually qualify. So, sometimes that happens. But Killing's already qualified for Worlds. He's got nothing to complain about.
He doesn't have to worry. Yeah, Tyler too did too, by the way. So this is all,
But for Tyler, it gets very interesting now. Because if he qualifies in champs,
the next person
his APAC spot.
Yeah.
Top points earner opens up. Because, for example, if Bunny Hopper wins champs, then it's just another spot to someone at champs.
Yeah.
Whereas if Tyler wins, the APAC points leader spot is up for grabs.
Yeah, which I think isn't it Doc Rivius? I think it's Rivius, right?
I think it is Rivius as far as I'm concerned.
It was between those two for like most of the year now. I don't think it's close. It's like those two guys at the top, and then like a giant point gap between the third guy.
I never commit on points numbers apart from leaders, because you never know if it's right. Every time I look, I feel like that points number changes. So
why is that?
But yeah, it's just something to note that this is different to Bunny Hopper winning champs or Viper, because their spots came from champs. So their spots then drop down the line within champs to see what happens there. But if Tyler qualifies, then I believe Rivius gets the world spot as well.
Yeah.
So Rivius is like, go Tyler.
Exactly. Totally.
But this is also the highest EV champs that has ever existed.
That's awesome. No,
because
of
Bunny Hopper and Viper.
Yeah. No,
it's crazy.
Dude, the World Championships is going to be so sick, man, this year. It's going to be amazing.
It's just weird. Winter champs could get very strange, though. There could be so much more Hearthstone played out at that tournament than there planned to be.
I know. Well, there could be it's crazy how many people could potentially be affected that aren't going to even be there. They're not going to even be at the tournament, So I think this is the case, probably the biggest case where.
Well, there's only Rivius though. Everyone else will be at Winter Champs.
Oh, really? Okay.
So if say you go to Winter Champs, right?
Okay.
And I believe this is what will happen. But say Bunny Hopper, Viper, and Tyler get top 4, right? So Tyler Spot goes to Rivius, so forget about that. Right. But Bunny Hopper and Viper, those 2 spots stay within champs.
Right.
So you could one two out of groups.
Right.
And still get a spot of Worlds.
So are they going to be playing like 5th and 6th and 7th place games? Yeah, they probably will be, right?
Which is why I said there may be a lot more Hearthstone happening champs than planned.
Gotcha.
So they have to play out to find out who gets the spots if all of this happens. So if you've qualified for champs and not Worlds, you are in the best place that's ever existed.
50% of the people get in, basically.
Yeah.
Something like
it's
that.
crazy.
That's awesome. No, that's definitely amazing. Okay, well, it definitely makes for a very amazing, just like exciting Winter Championships that's going to be happening at the end of February. So, definitely get ready for that. Start following that. I'm sure we're going to be voting for our picks and getting packs and all that good stuff that we normally do. So be on the lookout for that. All right. Well, I want to take a quick moment here just to let folks know that we have a Patreon for Value Town, where just you guys can come and support the show by making any kind of pledges and whatnot. Try to do some fun things too as well with patrons, but this is like one of the only way is to really support the show and really help us keep doing the show. So I always want to take some time, thank some of the guys and the patrons for doing that. So Mike T, our legendary producer, as always, Raydan, Bryce L, Alex F, Bruce W, Michael O, 2 Comma Kid, Cameron M, Paul H, Code Chemist, Roger F, Richard M, Gary D, Anticrisis, and GoTrix, just to name a few. I think GoTrix is actually in the chat right now, so he's always a regular every week here. So shout out to all of you guys. Thank you so much. We're gonna talk about next here. Actually, I don't have this. Did I go out of order? I must have gone out of order here. I think next up we've got Hearthstone streaming. So this has more to do with auto chess, but we're gonna definitely talk about just how the impact of it on basically Hearthstone streaming, because we don't. Last time we talked about Artifact, oh my god, people just like revolted. It's like, isn't this a Hearthstone stream, man? Like, why are we talking about Artifact?
God.
So we're not
going
to
talk about
crazy.
Anything without getting angry. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So auto chess. For those of you wondering what the heck is auto chess, auto chess is this arcade game that's on or it's in Valve's arcade or Steam's arcade. It's based on Dota 2. It's made by like 3 Chinese developers. So no idea who they are, but they built this game that's been very addictive. A lot of people have been playing it recently. It doesn't look like a card game, but it's very much a card game in the way it's played. And it's like, speaking in terms of Artifact, where it's like Dota, right? There's like 3 different lanes. There are 3 different kind of boards that you're playing on, but instead of having cards, you have like these characters or these pieces, like on a chessboard. You have these pieces that you can play. They all have different abilities. And kind of like Artifact, when the turn ends, and the turns are really quick, and that's one of the best things about the game. It's like really, really quick and fast. And you kind of set your pieces really quick, buff whatever you want, and then once the turn ends, or once your placements end, and during that stage of the turn, they just all start fighting. Like it becomes animated, and they're just like killing each other, and these giant ships are coming in, and all kinds of spells are being cast. And then at the end of it, whoever's army ends up winning, ends up getting a win. And you kind of go back and forth like that until you explain it, right? Like I don't even know how that scoring works.
So what happens is it's 8 player, and your opponents. There's some creep rounds where you just kill creeps for golden items, but there's basically you get a random opponent, which is another person's team. It's a deck building game, so you build a squad of heroes from Dota, and that squad fights someone else's squad, right? So at the end they fight, the AI takes over, and it just does it. You just sit and watch. There's nothing you can do. And once you win, more importantly, if you lose, depending on how many heroes of your opponents are alive at the end of that round, they deal percentage damage to you. And once you die, you're out of the game. It's last person standing, basically. So it's a battle royale. But what's very interesting about the way it works is the way you build your team is, as you progress through rounds and win or whatever, you get gold. Gold buys heroes. But heroes start as 1-star, and if you get 3 1-star heroes, you create a 2-star hero, and then so on to 3-star, right? So you upgrade. And the big part of the game is every character has 2 synergies. So like a human Warlock. So humans do something when you have 3 different human heroes on the board. Like they have a chance to disarm an opponent.
Race. Okay, so synergy and race.
And then warlocks, if you have 3 warlocks on the board, different named warlocks, your whole team gets lifesteal.
Wow. Okay, that
but
sounds great.
You only have, even at end game, you have a maximum of 10 pieces. Most of the core of the game, you go between 5 and 7 on the board. So as you can imagine, with synergies with only 3s or 2s, you basically create a certain squad with certain synergies to try and beat what your opponent's synergies are. But yeah, the game gets very interesting because the pool of heroes you can pick from, it's one random. Pool between all players. So this is where it gets interesting. If another player is going axe, right, and buys more axes to upgrade into like a 2-star axe, there are less axes in the pool for you to see and for everyone else.
So it's never good to do the same thing as what another person's doing, basically.
Right. Okay. So you need to work out whether you need to alter or go for what you want or try and change your plan. And a lot of the game is keeping your plan moving because you can see what your opponents have.
Yeah.
So you can like try and beat everyone. But yeah, the game's pretty popular one because it's effectively a deck building game, and people who play any card games like playing more card games normally. It's something that, you know, and also it's free. You just download Dota 2, download the map, play, and it has a matchmaking and ranking system. So it's got more stuff than Artifact has. You know, so
I mean, that's how I describe it. It's like this is what Artifact should have been, you know, and you know, having it be a Dota game. But the reason we're talking about it, because this is obviously a Hearthstone podcast, the reason we're talking about it is because a lot of Hearthstone streamers have started streaming auto chess. You know, it started off as just kind of a fun hobby, but now they're just really addicted to the game. They just want to play the game, and obviously they need to stream every day, so they just like stream it now. So, you know, like big streamers, you know, Dog's streaming it now, you know, Hafu would be streaming it, and I mean,
Savitz obviously did move to Magic.
Savitz switched from Magic to like, I mean, Savitz is like almost all in on this. Like the things that he's been tweeting recently, like he thinks this is the next big thing. So he's
and
like,
I know
seriously all in.
So part of the I'll call it the Americas group, but Gallon, Crane, Ike, Firebat's been playing.
Zolay's been playing it too.
Firebat's already built a spreadsheet. That's when you know things get scary. I was trying to Firebat earlier, but yeah, like that group are playing it. But I don't know. It's one of the benefits of the game is that, and it's just if Hearthstone had tournament mode, basically, all 8 players are in the same game.
Yeah,
you just have your own part of your map. It's split into 8, and you see on the right side everyone's names and health. And health is basically if you lose rounds, you lose health of your main character.
Right.
So you can literally watch a lobby with Dog versus Savitz versus Hafu versus JJ, who's also playing it, versus Fino versus whoever, right? And that's your lobby, and you sit and watch that game, and that's just interesting because it's all these big streamers playing together. And then you see who's the best, which, you know, because of everyone's pre-built audiences, that gets more interesting. Because it's like, oh, Dog just dumpstered all of these Hearthstone streamers, you know, in this game. And it's pretty fun. It's relatively quick. A game's like approximately 30 to 40 minutes total. So it's not too bad. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just multiplayer. Almost, it's like a built-in mini tournament every single time you play.
Yeah.
And I think that's... if Hearthstone had a 4-man or 6-man or 8-man, whatever tournament mode, streamers would probably run tournaments with other streamers all day. You know what I mean? Like that would probably happen a little bit more.
Though. I mean, I think that
definitely is different.
That phenomenon does have a little bit to do. I mean, no question has a little bit to do with just why people like are okay with watching it. You know, like I still think that there obviously is this element of not knowing what you're watching, just like anything else. Like if you're watching it for the first time. And, you know, it isn't, there are definitely elements of it that are not as watchable as Hearthstone because...
I watched a how-to play video before I played.
Yeah,
because I did not understand.
Right.
I didn't understand,
Yeah, the nice thing is it's free, so you can just go and download it and just, like, learn it and you can play. But,
and like I said, I watched one video and I knew how to play then. You know what I mean? It's not
simple.
like, but what about this and this? It's like, you just play then.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, I can see why a lot of them are playing it. I mean, it's it's fresh. B, you know, it's different, right? It's definitely not singular. Again, I think it's something that Artifact should have been, you know. So one
of my biggest gripes with Artifact is that it was promoted as a card game, and it's not. It's like,
What do you mean?
so it feels more like Artifact feels more like a board game.
Oh, yes,
right?
Yes, I agree with that.
Whereas, you know, I've got board games in my house that have cards with them. It's not a card game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
and it was touted as some kind of MTG Hearthstone style card game.
Right. That's right.
Whereas it doesn't have to be a card game to be fun and for people to like to play it, right? Like, I think that was the mis-selling point in Artifact, but I won't blab on too much about that.
The million things that are wrong with it, but you know, the spectator element of it too. You know, I think the spectator element's kind of cool. It's like quick, and I think the speed too. Like if we had speed Hearthstone, I think a lot of people that would be pretty cool. And that's what it feels like.
The casters were literally talking about this
when you're playing
weekend.
auto chess. It is like you got 30 seconds to make your moves. I mean, you don't have that much time. It's quick. It's
in a game where the combat does itself. The game has a surprising amount of micro to it because you get like 10 seconds to choose which heroes you want to buy that round, place which heroes on the board, and also board positioning does have a very high impact to whether you win or not. So, for example, there's a easy strategy, but the assassin type leaps to the back line and like leaps to the furthest away square.
Yeah.
And then attacks your opponents from behind. And normally people put their weaker characters at the back, right?
Right.
So what you can do if you're against someone who's playing assassins, you put your dudes in a corner and leave one square at the back. And one assassin jumps in, and then you all just turn around and he dies.
That's awesome.
But the positioning is where the chess aspect comes in. You are playing on a board of squares, and nothing can be on the same square at the same time.
Right.
So there is that movement style and set up to
your
the,
stuff
to the
attacks the closest thing to them too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So there's that element as well. So,
yeah. But it's definitely cool. But you can mess up. I messed up like twice today, really big, and lost because of it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just I messed up the actual clicking. You know, like the actual APM of the game, which sounds weird, but it exists. It's
okay, so here's the big question: like, is there actually a future in RHS, or is this just like a shot in the pan, you know, kind of thing?
As it stands today, there probably isn't a future in it because it's solvable to a large extent. Like your endgame composition of heroes is often extremely similar all games if you last that long.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the problems they have is they're updating patches, they're doing patches, balances, and new heroes already. But one of the problems is in case you don't know, you get a choice every round of like 5 heroes, and you buy what you can buy with your gold, right? Mm-hmm. If I tell you in a year they've added 1,000 extra heroes, well, how do you ever get the same heroes to level them up, right? Because that's how they work. You buy 3 of one hero, levels it up once, yeah?
Right.
But if they had tons of heroes, well, the pool gets bigger, so then you don't see the heroes as much. So if they were going to make it last and make it not solvable, is you would have to say you have 1,000 heroes just as a random number. They would have to have like 20 different pools, and in any given separate game, it picks like 10 random pools.
Well,
to keep the mix going.
Or they could just keep having a new update that has brand new heroes.
It like takes heroes out and puts new ones
like
in.
Literally, like this new season has brand new heroes. You know, and
that's true. That's true.
The
only problem with a fixed pool like that is that every season becomes salt. You just work it out. And then that's what you play for every season.
Well, that's what meta is in Hearthstone. I mean, it's kind of the same in that way.
I guess it's just harder because like you can't change cards in a deck. You, as an end game maximum, you have 10 characters and that's it. Mm-hmm. And they all have to synergize. So if you often don't run like one random hunter or one random warlock. You need 3 of warlocks. So, and there's, for example, dragons. 3 dragons creates the synergy, and they start with their ultimates. But there are only 3 dragon characters in the game.
Right. But there's RNG too, right? There's a chance you don't get those 3, right?
There is RNG, yeah. And also people can steal them, which if people see you going dragons, and then they buy all the dragons.
Right. Because they already have their synergy, right? And they can just buy up whatever.
Right, they can just buy them because you have like 10 slots to hold characters in. But yeah, I think
I like that.
There's a future, but they have to very quickly design it that way. If they just leave it, then people are going to get burnt out pretty quick because I imagine already you start just seeing, okay, I start this, like at the moment, and this could just be balanced, which is fine, but starting mechs or druids is the strongest way because they have the most powerful early game. And if you have powerful early game, you transition to late game a lot stronger, and so on. So you get to the point where it's like, okay, there's my usual start. Okay, it's a little bit different. Okay, here's my usual end game. So on, so on. So it's got tons of replayability, but long term, as in a game that could span years, they need to put some certain things in to keep it fresh, or at least plan to.
Yeah.
But it's definitely fun.
I think it's really exciting. I mean, in terms of seeing, we haven't seen a card game just classified as a card game, right? Like we haven't really seen a card game that's, I would say, innovated past Hearthstone, or innovated to a point where it's actually better than what we've seen with Hearthstone, or even, Hearthstone's not that crazy different. It did introduce the classes and the hero powers and, things like that, but still, it was still an innovation, and the fact that it was digital and mobile and everything, it was a big part. So we haven't really seen anything change in this genre, and people were thinking Artifact would be it. Obviously, Artifact isn't it, but so this is the closest thing I've seen, outside of maybe of what I've heard of Bazaar, like Reynad's thing. To something that's quite different, and I think could work. So it might not be, it might not be auto chess, it might not be these three guys, because who knows, like they could be just three guys in their garage, like they might not be some game development house that I think that, at the level of which we're talking about being the next big thing, you probably need, at least some type of, a group of developers together and game designers. So it might be just like the idea that ends up turning into, like Dota, for instance, right? Like Dota was this Warcraft 3 arcade game that ended up turning into, what we all know as MOBAs, and
created a genre. Yeah.
Exactly. And Valve, went and made Dota, so,
you may have heard of that game called League of Legends.
Yeah, League of
Pretty
Legends
popular.
Was the simplified version of that. So it'll be interesting to see if one of these other big development houses kind of get their game designers on that, get their juices flowing, and seeing how they can make this into something that can become big.
What's interesting to me is the game itself on a basic level is actually quite simple. And when you've got a simple idea, you get a squad of characters, heroes, whatever, and then they fight your opponent's squads. That is quite simple. You make synergies that the heroes work well together, so on. That's a simple idea. Yeah. And because it's simple, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some developers that are already jumping on something now. Because graphically, Dota, the graphics in Dota Auto Chess do not look great because it's Dota. The engine and the models and the characters move and act like Dota, right? And Dota looks okay, but it's not fantastic. But bear in mind, you have a maximum of 20 units on your view. Mm-hmm. Like that game could look incredible. If you built it, if you built what you wanted it to be, the characters could have a very unique design. The game itself is very straightforward to explain once you get past the whole people thinking about Dota and chess. You just name it something better.
The fighting could be much more.
It could look sweet.
Yeah. I mean, the fighting right now. I mean, for the most part, and with the exception of you seeing this like ghost ship come up there and knock stuff on, and a few of the other spells, it does look like just a bunch of people slashing each other. That sort of thing.
Right.
But it could be awesome. It could be.
It could look awesome. Yeah. That's what I mean, right? And but to create the game, I'm not a game developer, but it should be relatively simple. It's a chessboard that dudes have to move along, and then they hit their opponents with whatever stats you tell them they're allowed to. The core concept of the game is not super difficult. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something, because the first company to set out his, let's just keep calling it Auto Chess for now, his Auto Chess Ultimate, then like all the streamers will play it straight away, whether it's good or bad. People will be like, sweet, someone's actually made an auto chess game. Boom. Yeah. Thousands of viewers. You could make skins for that game super easy. Already in game now, if you get top 3, you effectively get a roll for coins, and coins give you a roll for a random courier. So the character that you actually are in game, it doesn't fight, you just move around and control things.
Right.
There are already like a roll skin and rarity based skins based system in this bloody map. You know what I mean? Not even And if you could make a game so it would be fully skin based, you could sell a lot of stuff like that. Like, I don't know, it seems straightforward to me. It's probably an easy win, although we might see some bad rip-offs.
Yeah, for sure. But kind of circling back to how this again pertains to Hearthstone streaming, I don't know. It makes one thing. I think all of this, and we we're seeing it when Magic Arena as well as Artifact was a few months ago pulling streamers away from Hearthstone, that sort of thing. I mean, right now I feel like there are not enough big streamers to go around, like for all these games that are, potentially happening. Normally what would happen is like a game starts getting big and organically there'll be some big streamers that come from it. But because the marketing strategy for all these games, and we saw a little bit with PUBG as well and Fortnite, they pay these streamers to go and play these games.
A lot of money. Watch this guy's Toast video. It is absurd.
Right. They pay them a lot of money, and it's like no wonder, no wonder, shows like ours don't get any any kind of sponsorships for them because streamers are obviously making all the money. So, but yeah, so when things like this, like auto chess, it just makes like this, Hearthstone streaming numbers like so fragile, like it could just disappear tomorrow. And, we've seen a little bit of it, Toe's playing, kind of like half timing it, right? Like playing.
And Toe's like sort of half becoming a variety streamer now, I would
kind
say.
of offline and everything, right? So like his slot has opened up, during the day, but you don't see anybody taking up that, in terms of like from a standpoint of a ton of viewers. So, this whole like the next line kind of comes in and takes the, when people leave, that doesn't happen that way, not on Twitch. And that's a little concerning, in terms of just the total Hearthstone streaming numbers kind of going down. It doesn't mean the game's any less popular. It just means that, from I would say a Twitch prominence, it's been coming down,
I think in a roundabout way, I think it's just a good thing because it's one of the problems I see with Twitch and just with streaming and the culture is that you need to stream 18 million hours a day. Like an unhealthy amount of time needs to be spent if you're big because you just earn so much money, you just should. But also people's mindset of how I grow is I stream 8,000 hours a day, right? Like you never stop every day, 7 days a week. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that is like, if you do that, you're going to burn out of anything, right? Like no one can grind one game and never be bored of it. It just doesn't really happen, right? That's just not the way life is, or the way your brain works even. Like even the craziest jobs in the world get boring for the people doing them. Believe it or not, there are boring parts of my job and I have a dream job. You know what I mean? Like that's just the way it is though, right? Like it could be any job in the world. But if people move on, it refreshes them for Hearthstone in general. But also, I think Hearthstone stood the test of time. Like there are many games that people think would dumpster Hearthstone, especially in streaming numbers, and it continues to be minimum top 10 most of the time. But on the flip side of that, I do think Blizzard could do some things for Hearthstone. Like there was a format in Brawl I mentioned earlier where it's like just no classic or basic cards. But you had to build a deck out of only 4 expansions worth of cards, and they were expansions that have never hit each other in the game's life as well. So that's super interesting. But it was just a tavern brawl. Just make it a heroic brawl.
Yeah,
that gets super sick. One, you make money, Blizzard. You make a lot of money because people keep paying it for heroic brawls. 2, it's super fun to stream, right? Like, it's so much fun. It's like Arena but good, right? And with you actually doing like no basic or classic this week or for the 2 weeks, it's these 4 random expansions. It's archetypes and decks and styles that no one's ever seen before. The streamers are really interested and they want to stream it, and viewers will be interested because it's just brand new Hearthstone. Like there are things that Blizzard could do. I feel like they're kind of lax a little bit. I mean, look what Dan just did with Twitch Rivals. That's interesting, right?
Let's just say we had Twitch Rivals like every 2 to 4 weeks.
Right.
I mean, you keep those guys invested, like you give these events that they, even if you have to incentivize them, right? Like they still come back and then there's something interesting and different that they're participating in. And
we saw streamers be like, practicing for Twitch Rivals. So they were doing duo streams with Arena streamers and stuff. Like it's something different. It's something interesting.
It's a community thing too. It's like that's the one thing that's been missing. It's just is having this community feeling type in having things like, because we have a bunch of niche, like these groups, right, within the Hearthstone space, whether it's groups of pro players or groups of streamers, and things like that. But, when you're able to create events that actually bring together a bunch of these, that the groups that you would not normally see together, I mean, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool seeing Disguised Hosts play with MERPs, like grouped up with MERPs, like for this event, and it really, cross pollinizes like the communities, and you can really say that the Twitch Rivals was an actual community event. That's really, really cool. We don't see that too much. So.
And I know Dan's on board with this general idea, but I still just want to see multi-format tournaments. Like, it would be sick. Imagine the Twitch Rivals arena style score was done day one. Imagine if today they had a constructed tournament with the top 10 teams. Like, or whatever, right? It doesn't really matter what it is, but imagine if like that's a 1-day event, that was fantastic. But imagine next time they do a 3-day event, but like today they do draft where they open packs or whatever, and the duos like work through this, and it gets further and further down until there's a finals or something. Like, that would be super cool to watch, and also display many different aspects of being good at Hearthstone: arena, deck building, execution, mechanical play, etc. I think that would be super fun, super cool, and it's one thing that would be very interesting. I would watch it. Like, it's my job, but I'd watch it. It's like,
for sure. Cool. Yeah, totally. And if something could be figured out just in terms of doing more of these long term, logistically, I think that's where I think that a lot of value could be gained there, because there's a lot of people that plan giant one-time events, and then it's like it only happens one weekend, and that's it. Where this is like something that needs to be addressed throughout the entire year, so even if it's on a smaller scale, like even if it's Twitch Rival, it's on a smaller scale, that's for me, that's probably the right size. It's like, it's not too crazy to do. It's something that can be replicated and potentially just needs a different format every time. But that size is perfect. And it was invitational only. There's a reason why things are invitational, guys. Like, there's, it's strategic in a way too, just to not only just get viewership, but get the kind of right people together, like people that are representing different elements of the tournaments or just the community and things like that. So we definitely need more of that. That'd definitely be great. The caster tournament needs to happen.
It definitely should. I think as well, the past 12 months of Hearthstone has been so heavily competition based in terms of HCT circuit of tour stops, playoffs, champs, tour stops, playoffs, champs. Pretty savagely, to be honest. There was a lot of tour stops this past 12 months. So I think people we need to go back to what's this cool event, whether it's fully top of the line competitive or not. It's like, is this event cool? Is it interesting? As well as competition, of course. I more than most probably just love true competitive Hearthstone, just completely who is the best player, full stop. But I also watch Twitch Rivals, and I don't like Arena. You know what I mean? It's just I watched it because of what it was, and I have less Arena wins than probably most people you've ever spoken to. But I watched it because the event was cool, and that's just a good thing.
Well, I mean, so the one thing that's, it didn't really happen in the Twitch Arenas Rivals thing, because it was really just two of the best. You're trying to pick the two best people together, right? Like in terms of Arena, but one thing, things that have worked really well in the past, that we've seen in sports is just the general kind of pro-am, type of combination of like somebody's really good and somebody, who's not. And it's usually like a celebrity or something like that. And the reason why those things work, by the way, is because the best players in the world at like a sport or whatever, or certain sports, they may not be the most popular people like in that sport or in that industry. And when you kind of combine, just famous people with that at the same time, it becomes something really interesting. And I remember a long time ago, I did this, it was like this arcade game in StarCraft 2. It's called Star Strikers. And Star Strikers...
the football, right?
Yeah, it's soccer. It's a football soccer. And the Star Strikers community, they had pros. They had like legit pros, and they had, and I would actually just play with them like every night, because I was just like, loved that game for a while. And so I ended up putting together this tournament where it would just it was like 4v4, right? The actual game. I'd take two of the Star Striker pros and put them with two StarCraft 2 celebrities. You know, like Idra and Huck would play with, you know, these two strikers, these two Star Striker pros, and then Day 9 and JP would play with these two. I mean, we basically built like I forget, like either 8 or 16 teams, and it was like crazy huge. You know, it was like very, very big event for like the scale of which, you know, I did it at, which was like next to nothing. You know, it's a community thing. And I think that kind of thing in Hearthstone could work as well too. You know, like the streamers are not necessarily the best players. You know, like some of them are, but most of them aren't. You know, they're legend players, but they're not, you know, the HCT Pro type of players. So I think like when you kind of put people together like that, and Arena is like a really good example of it, because a lot of people don't play Arena at the level of, you know, like some of the guys that we saw do well. So if you kind of combine those two and create some kind of event that allows for that dynamic, then you're kind of putting the best things in the community together, you know, and doing something cool that way. So
I would agree with you though that speed Hearthstone should happen.
Yes, we need some way to do that. Like, you know,
I wish
custom game counter or something like that.
If you go over the timer once, you've just lost. That'd be so. It would make people play fast, wouldn't it? Make people, you know, oh, sorry, that's a loss there. Get out.
Okay, there's probably no way of doing that, but that's a little too brutal. Yeah. Okay, well, why don't we move on to some Q&A, guys? We still got a few minutes left here. So if you got any questions, definitely ask them in Twitch chat. If you're, for whatever reason, not in Twitch chat, go ahead and tweet those to ValueTownGG, and we'll read them out. Ahmeden, our regular, has a question. What theme should Team 5 make an expansion about? Clearly, the top performing expansion was the top performing expansion, I guess, of all time was the Frozen Throne due to its superior theme and well-known characters. I'd agree with that. I mean, they also did a crap load of promotion for Frost Throne. I mean, they did the whole thing at Comic-Con, and I mean, they even made crazy awesome videos, you know, and stuff like that for Frozen Throne. So I think it had a lot to do with it as well. But to your point, you know, the Lich King, I mean, that's like one of the strongest or most well-known WoW expansions. So
probably the most iconic story that
true.
Maybe even just Blizzard have, actually, because it was Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne. Warcraft 3 introduced Arthas, but the Frozen Throne was his like journey as becoming the Lich King. And I think it's hard to beat if that's the criteria of, can you pick a bigger expansion than that in terms of theme? Probably not, but they could do Hearthstone Heroes of Overwatch. That'd be a good expansion theme. Imagine I play Tracer.
Yeah. I mean, they did like BRN. They did Black Rock Mountain once. I feel like they could still go even further with that, you know, and you know, really dig into that. Other than that, I don't know if there's any more.
You know what I wanted to see, and I was a bit upset we've not seen it, is, do you know when they sort of almost reset the Hearthstone universe? And they have, you know, the inn with the little girl, I can't remember her bloody name, but there's like, you know, where the song's from and everything. There's the Murloc, the Orc, the Paladin. So, like, none of those, most of those aren't characters in the game. And I was like, oh man, I was expecting, there's only the Blood Elf, I believe, the doll puppet dude, is a character. I was like, oh, I thought they were going to like have all these characters in the actual game to play with. I thought that'd be pretty sick, but yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily even want them to just follow the Warcraft lore around. I kind of like them just going random. I was surprised they did Rastakhan, because that's so closely tied in with the current World of Warcraft expansion.
I personally think that League of Explorers was one of the best themed expansions that they ever had, except for, you know, the cards themselves were just, you know, so. But I thought that just having, you know, Reno and having, you know, Elise and things like that, and how they just created the whole storyline and world around that was really cool. You know, I would definitely not mind if they tried something like that again. You know, it's something brand new and creating the lore, and it gives them more runway too, like just to come up with it. It's probably
I just want them to go full meta and make a expansion about a tournament of Hearthstone. Like, that would be so sick.
Like what?
That'd be too deep.
What tournament? Like,
yeah, a Hearthstone tournament in lore, in game. That'd be so sick. Just go really deep.
Tournament organizer.
Right. The
Come
fact that you're
on.
laughing so much means that
my
would be funny,
goodness.
right? It'll be so sick.
Dude.
You play a card that's called
Raging
unannounced nerfs.
player.
Yeah. Unannounced nerf. Top deck.
Top deck.
Discover the best card from your deck. It's like, that'd be so sick. It'll be so funny.
You could do a Swiss guru or something like that. I don't know.
Just Swiss rounds. Add 10 turns to the timer or something. Like,
yeah.
It's the opposite of Nosdamu, makes the turns longer, just because Swiss never.
Oh gosh,
it'll be so funny.
Okay, that would be funny, but I don't know. I don't know if the actual storyline people and like how deep that they could go, because I feel like they spend a lot of time on,
and they could make like
actual
characters. So they could make actual players into characters.
So parody, like just saying,
yeah, just do but like as an orc or whatever. Yeah. But it would be so sick. It would be so sick.
Just saying, it would be JUSTSAYIN or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's not a bad idea. That'd be pretty funny. I give you that. That would be definitely a laugh. Yeah. I just don't know how long it would last. It'd be like, okay,
it'd be sick. There'd be a card like. Card literally called like Ace of Hunters. It'll be a hunter card, massive orc hunter, but then with like curly blonde, like puffy hair, like Hunter Ace. It would be so funny. I'd love it so much. They're never gonna do it ever. I'm pretty sure, but it'll be hilarious.
I mean, I've always said that they should memorialize our world champs. Like as some type of card, right? For real, not just like, oh yeah, that's
not a nod.
That's supposed to be firebat. No, that doesn't count. Like you're having a legit one, so that I don't know. It's just
it would be really
something
funny.
Historical, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, any other questions, guys? I don't know if there's anything. Oh, there's a question. Do you think we'll get any nerfs before April? I say yes.
Before rotation is the question, I guess. I mean, we are close, right? What are we on, end of January? We probably could. Put it this way, it would be good if we got nerfs again and we got them before the expansion. It would be good, mainly because the more Blizzard mess with stuff, the more it shows they're willing to mess with stuff, which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Like people who get upset, like, oh, this was nerfed and now I can't play this deck. Would you rather things never change? No is the answer to that question.
Yeah, I agree. But what should they nerf? Ghost Success. What should they nerf? Let's see. What would I mean, definitely something in Hunter. Like I think that something in Hunter would be nice to change.
My weird thing about Hunter is, like, I'm slightly biased because I love Hunter, but it's, it said in the interview, right? It's powerful right now, very powerful, but it's not unbeatable. It doesn't, I don't know. It's a strong aggro deck, and you have to have strong decks in the game. There will be a strongest deck. It doesn't feel like Druid, right? Or at least not to me. When I play against Hunter, it does not feel the soul-crushing anxiety I used to get from queuing into Druid and going, they are going to wild growth me on 2, nourish me on 5, and I'm going to die.
I don't know. The current one can feel that way. Like the one with the hyena, like the one right now, right? Like the... It can't
I just feel like you can interact with it and build decks that just dumpster it. Like, I don't know.
You can. I mean, once you know how to play against and not trigger the secrets and things like that, then you can. But it does keep reloading. You were talking about Zul'jin earlier. Like Zul'jin's like really strong and just it reloads the board after you've already reloaded the board a million times with spellstones and to my side and stuff like that.
I think it's very strong, but I think there has to be a strong deck, right? Something has to be the strongest. But my thing is, Druid felt like you couldn't build something that beat Druid that wasn't just Druid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was very difficult to just go, I'll play this, and if I run into Druids, they're going to get dumpstered. That just didn't feel like that.
Yeah.
Whereas against Hunter, to be honest, a lot of the time, like, Priest can wreck a lot of Hunters pretty easily. Once Hunter loses momentum and don't have Master's Call, they still don't do much. Like some of the healing classes, some of the big combo classes. I think Paladin does pretty okay versus Hunter right now. I don't think that's a big problem. OTK Paladin, for example, I mean. But again, you could build a deck that just dumpsters Hunters if you want. Whereas Druid, I thought, was so oppressive that they just had better cards than everyone else. Whereas I don't feel like that's the case with Hunter. But I think Priest is a problem, mainly because when playing against priest is a horrible experience because if you aggro, they either have drawn Ziliax or Mass Hysteria on 5 or they haven't. If they have drawn Ziliax, then that's going to be res 3 times and you probably don't have the juice to kill them. If they don't draw it, you probably win, but it's all on them a lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
You often can't play around Mass Hysteria or Psychic Scream that much because you need the bodies on the board to win.
I don't know. I don't think that.
And sometimes they clone and you die.
Yeah, that's the part of it I have more problems with.
It just feels unfun to play against, no matter what class you're playing. Is my issue. Like, I feel like you could just lose. Like,
well, I mean, you can't, like, any classes that have transformation. So Hex and Poly, you can disrupt it pretty hard. Because then you would force them to have the cloning gallery to potentially pull some stuff off, right? And then even at that, there's still RNG that they get sheeps, they get frogs, and shit like that.
I guess like the warriors, the 2 classes you just named, are two of the weakest classes in the game right now versus everything else. So maybe that's just making the issue worse.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like, priest just feels terrible to play against and feels like you can do everything right and then you just lose anyway. And obviously I'm being a bit extreme. But it feels like you have the least impact on the game plan when you play against Clone Priest, whereas they have all the impactful turns in decision making.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean to some extent, but for me, if I were to nerf that, I would just nerf the cloning gallery. I think that's the only thing that feels like really crazy bad losing to, because it's like they start with 2 Mind Blasts, which should be terrible, right? And then they just end up getting the elementals and then the Valen Malagus and you win. It's like,
but this is a weird question, right? Because I guess what the core of the question is, what do you want to change before rotation? Because Radiant Elementals go out in rotation, right?
Yeah. I mean, all the yeah, exactly.
The Spellstones do. So Clone Priest goes away soon anyway. So I think the meta is pretty decent right now.
Yeah, I can't think of a specific card that is just crazy broken right now. Outside of Rexar, or just something that's crazy valuable and powerful, like Rexar, that's not going to be going away anyway. So,
that's it, right?
I can't think of. Yeah, I can't. I mean, it would have to be maybe like Gen and Baku hero power abilities.
Yes, you know what?
I think those are the 2 things. Those are the only things I would change. Yeah, right now, and that's a long-term change. Yeah,
I think Gen and Baku was the second I saw the reveal of those cards, I was like, they're printing these in the first set. Because they're going to be in the game for the longest, right?
Yeah,
period of time possible. But I don't know how you nerf them.
I mean, you could get really creative. I mean, you could change it by a lot if you wanted to. Like, you don't have to go up 1 or down 1, or you don't have to do anything subtle. You could actually change it quite a bit if you want. Look at the new heroes, right? They're very, very different.
Yeah, so, I just don't know how you'd nerf Gen and Baku. Like, we've talked about, I feel the cast have talked about this before. Like, how would we nerf it? Anything we come up with is either unplayable or still broken. Is the problem. Like, stats and stuff doesn't matter, right? You can make them the worst cards to play in the world. You still play them because it's a 1 of 30 to make your deck very powerful, or your hero power very powerful.
Well, I mean, like, here's an example, right? Like Odd Paladin, like, instead of putting 2 guys on the board, maybe just put, a 1/2 on the board, or a 2/2, even just a single 2/2. That's really good, and obviously we see that with like the Death Knight, but it's not as good as 2 1/1s for a deck like Odd Paladin. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's like an example of just one tweak. Like the damages, like I wouldn't just increase damage, for some of these, which you see with Hunter, you see with Mage, you see with even Rogue. So I think those could be tweaked a little bit, but I mean, we really have to pick and see choose which ones are actually having creating problems. But for sure, the whole like, oh, this should be pretty difficult building decks with just odds or evens is not an issue. Like, it's the hero power still makes up for all the deficiencies from that standpoint. And
the problem is, you look at a lot of the correct archetypes, right? As I said it earlier, it's extremely difficult to want to build a warrior that's late game that isn't odd because the hero power is so bloody good.
Right.
It's extremely difficult to build. People have been playing Tempo Rogue. It's just not as good as Odd Rogue, is it? You know what I mean? Like, it's you never, if the hero powers stay the same and the cards stay the same, it's as more cards go into the pool as well. Like, everyone's playing with the same set, but especially like right now before rotation, it's insane. Your decks are pretty damn powerful with just odd cards or just even cards. Like, it's super strong. And the problem, the real problem they have is to nerf a card's mana cost, they have to work out whether they're buffing it in a different way, right? If you nerfed, if you nerf Kill Command, oh, this is a terrible example because Even Hunter sucks. But if you nerfed Kill Command to 4 mana, does that make Even Hunter powerful?
Right,
powerful?
right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem they have with even and odd decks. They cannot nerf cards by mana that well anymore because it might just buff something else, right?
And that's why
they can't release good 1-drops now for Paladin because odd Paladin with Call to Arms and super powerful 1 or 2 drops, 1 drop, sorry, because they can't have 2 drops, would be busted, right? Like, you know, so that suddenly, because of even and odd, they have to be terrified if they change mana on anything at all. It's nuts.
I mean, to be honest, I'd be okay if they just drastically change them into the point where they're not played anymore. Like, it's okay to like let's just say halfway through this next year, you know, it's clear that, I mean, look at the meta right now. You know, it's like odd, even, odd, you know, like even, like there's odd, you know, there's like half the decks are either they're odd or even, you know, and I wouldn't mind if they essentially, if they completely nerfed both of those cards, like they just removed them from the game to that point, we'd see a completely different Hearthstone. Like that would create like a brand new Hearthstone after that, which is the thing I was hoping for when reset happens. But now that I'm realizing Baku and Gen are just going to be dominating once the reset happens, you know, I'm not as excited about the reset as I was before.
Oh, Chanman, we'll use Tar Creeper. I'm gonna miss that card. Sorry, I just saw it on the old road.
Oh God, where did that come from? We missed Tar Creeper. Yeah, it's a good card. It's definitely
and a good Cube. Card. I wish they'd put Cube into standard. Or basic or classic, whatever you want to call it. Cube? Because I think Carnivor's Cube is the best card they have ever made. That card was, I feel, fair but powerful and always interesting. Right, like that card's made some nutty moments / decks, right? I think it's fair though. Like no one's ever complained about Cube.
No, right? That's not true. No,
who's complained about Cube?
Come on, everybody has complained about Cube. It's just it's Cube in tandem with other stuff. So they've always chosen to nerf other stuff, and that synergized with Cube. You know what I mean? Like, no, don't get me wrong. I love what Cube does by itself, but the problem with that is like it is a little bit design, limiting because you can't create things that just, like you can't create play deads without looking at this. You can't create sacrificial pact, at a cheap cost or anything like that because of Cube. Because if anything that kills something for cheap, Cube is broken. Like that's the problem.
Cool. We've had some great Cube decks. Cube Warlock in its heyday. Death Rattle Hunter. Beautiful decks. Egg Paladin. Beautiful deck.
Beautiful deck. Powerful deck. I don't know if it's
you can
beautiful.
Cube a King Crush to hit your opponent for 1 million damage is glorious.
God. Okay.
I want to see more of in Hearthstone. Give me more cubes.
Like
I hope they meme us and just give us a different cube. I hope it becomes like the ooze of the game.
Oh my goodness. I totally don't mind cube. It's just everything that removes something or kills something for like it needs to be more expensive, you know what I mean? Or cube just needs to be more expensive. So I mean you can make cube like a 6 or 7 and you could argue that it's still good. Like
my argument is all those or a lot or most of those cards that kill and help cube actually will rotate anyway. So leave cube in.
Yeah, but I mean, Naturalize still exists, and
Naturalize, it's true.
Yeah. Naturalize is a good. See, Naturalize is actually a good card that if you're gonna make something cheap, at least have some drawback to it. There's no drawback for some.
You're an old school player. How dumb were we all for not playing naturalizing druid.
I know, like really,
We
seriously,
we
we're
sucked at the
stupid
game
back then.
Damn.
Well,
One
well,
mana
no.
killer
To
thing
be
is
honest,
sick.
to be honest, what was good with it? Like Sylvanas, maybe. I mean,
Ragnaros.
I mean,
As in even using it as removal.
yeah, but dude,
One mana
we had
killer.
3-mana big game hunter at the time. Come on, I mean,
That is
like,
true. That's true.
Dude,
But you
there's
could run 3 big game hunters.
jeez. No,
4 if
that's
you want to
too
run
many.
double.
That's way too many. Gosh. All right. Well, I don't think we have any more questions left. So why don't we wrap up? Raven, always a great time as always.
Pleasure.
Make sure to every time I have like really good deep topics, I always make sure to have you on here, or at least I ask you.
You like talking.
Yeah, for sure.
This was just good timing because I've only just really got home. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. But yeah, thanks for coming on, man. You have any shout outs you want to do before we take
just the usual. I'm just done with playoffs, but I'll be at championships at the end of February 28th, I think is the first day. Unfortunately, it's not open to an audience this time. So that's a shame.
Why? Like, I don't understand why they do that. Like,
Pass. Blizzard thing. Well,
Okay.
so from my
All right.
understanding is we're in the studio we cast playoffs from.
Oh,
That is a
not the
literal
stage.
studio.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not a
it does
stage.
not have audience areas.
I guess
so it's
Overwatch
unfortunate.
League is getting ready right now. That's probably why.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's the way it is. It's still good. The players will still be there, so we'll still have live player interviews and such. So don't worry about that. But yeah, I'll be at champs. But yeah, just follow me on Twitter, Ravencasts, Twitch. I am home for until then, so I will be streaming most days.
Yeah,
So that's just.
I'm streaming auto chess.
Yep, I stream some with Firebat. If you want to hear me and Firebat make jokes out of each other and also casually play a game, tune in. It'd be great. But yeah, other than that, thanks for asking me as always, Chanman. I can't always make it when I would like to, but I do when I can.
I always appreciate you coming on,
pleasure.
man. It's always a great time. I want to thank everybody, that's been watching. If you didn't see the video I posted earlier this week, I've switched the YouTube channel. So just make sure you go to youtube.com/ChanmanV, which you've always gone to, but I've actually changed which YouTube channel that is now. So you'll have to resubscribe to that to get the Value Town VODs. So make sure you go to youtube.com/ChanmanV and do that right now. What used to be ChanmanV, like whatever you're subscribed to, if you were subscribed to the channel before, is now the Streamer Showdown one. So if you like Streamer Showdown, just stay subscribed to that one as well. So I kind of did that in a weird way, and there's reasons for it. I just, didn't want to go too deep into explaining exactly the reasons for it, but that's what we ended up doing. But thanks everybody for watching. Next week we got a special episode with Ixar. Dean Ayala is going to be here, the developer or designer. So all those questions.
It's the person to get angry at when you nerfs at your cards that you don't like. Basically.
I know, right, exactly. So we'll have some good interviews there. Regis is going to be joining too. So if you guys like Regis, he'll be here as well. So tune in for that. Same time as always, Wednesday 4 p.m. If you want to find the VODs, again, I just told you about the YouTube, but the sounds and audios are all on iTunes and Google Play, SoundCloud.com/ChanmanV, and Spotify. So just look up Value Town and you will find us there. But that's going to be it, guys, for Value Town. So for Raven, myself, ChanmanV, we'll see you next week.